actually. And so I'm just going to start with a few questions about the read aloud that you did. And you were doing the second read this morning of Kitten's First Full Moon.
Yes.
And first, just a little curious about keeping the children engaged during the second read. And if you could talk about any sort of systems or structures that you use to keep the children engaged, since they've read it once already and this is the second time going through.
Right. So when I do a second read of a story, I make it so that the story is really open. So it's not me reading word for word. So for instance, when I start to read, I immediately start to call on kids and asking them what happened, why, and things like that. And one of the systems that I use to keep them all engaged is that I do it as almost like a popcorn call. So I will call on kids. So I'll say for instance, Stacy, what happened on blah 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 page. So I make it so that children are always engaged because they don't know if they will be called upon next.
So they got to pay attention,
right?
And be ready to go.
Exactly.
Okay, great, thank you. And you do the first read, and then the children have an opportunity to go and play at centers, do some small group work before the second read.
Right.
There's sort of a gap of a day,
right?
So between the reads, and so what do you think? How do you think their experiences in centers and small groups between the first and the second read, how do you think those experiences in the centers and the small groups help them when they reconstruct the story the second time for that second read?
So, so after we do a first read, children are able to do activities that better get them deeper involved. So for instance, one of the stories that we just read, Raccoon on his own, children were able to build a swamp area, and then we actually built a boat and everything. So the kids were able to act out scenes of a story. So that to me means that they are able to fully grasp what is happening in a story, because then they are then going to a center and acting it out. Another example is one of my kids yesterday painted a scene from the story Kitten's first full moon. So after we did a first read, he then went to the art area and used the paints black and white to paint a picture of a kitten and a tree and a moon. So I believe that center time activities help kids to dig deeper into each of the books.
Okay, that's